Reality TV star Aisleyne Horgan Wallace, hospitalized after XL bully dog attack, leaves her scared for life. Reality TV personality Aisleyne Horgan Wallace has been rushed to hospital after a frightening dog attack involving XL bully, an incident she says has left her in agony and permanently scared. Now let's dive deeper and explore every hidden detail behind this story on our AI
So
podcast.
imagine you're just walking down a familiar street on like a super sunny afternoon.
Right, just a totally normal day.
Yeah, totally normal day. And your brain is basically this organic supercomputer, right? It's silently scanning thousands of data points every single second.
Oh, absolutely. It's doing so much heavy lifting that we aren't even aware of.
Exactly. It's registering the sound of traffic, maybe the relaxed posture of some guy walking past you, or, the lazy wag of a dog's tail. And it's constantly feeding you this one really vital message, which is you are safe.
Yeah.
But the thing is, you don't even realize this background process is running until the exact microsecond it completely fails.
Which is terrifying to even think about.
It really is. Now, imagine that entire threat detection system, which, by the way, has been perfected over millions of years of human evolution, just shattering in a split second. The normal rules of reality just snap.
Yeah, it really forces this intense confrontation with how fragile our day-to-day perception of safety actually is. I mean, we all build these super complex mental models just to navigate the world.
We kind of have to, right? Otherwise, we'd be terrified all the time.
Right, exactly. We rely heavily on this baseline assumption of predictability. So when an event comes along and completely bypasses that model, the shock you feel isn't just physical, it's this profound psychological rupture.
And that rupture is exactly the focus of our deep dives today. We are looking at the recent experiences of reality TV personality Aisleyne Horgan Wallace.
Right. People probably know her from her time on Big Brother.
Yeah, exactly. She recently went through two incredibly different but back-to-back health and safety scares that provide this stunning look at this exact phenomenon.
And just to be clear for everyone listening, we are not here to dissect celebrity gossip.
No, not at all.
We are unpacking these events to really understand the suddenness of trauma, the absolute illusion of safety, and honestly, the intense necessity for personal responsibility in a world where danger is getting harder and harder to spot.
Well said. These two incidents, so there was a brutal physical attack by an XL bully dog, and then a severe medical scare involving unverified weight loss injections just days prior.
Yeah, just days apart. It's wild.
It serves as this fascinating, almost real-time case study because it highlights how quickly life pivots from routine to catastrophic and how someone processes that whiplash in the public eye.
So let's get right into the physical incident first, because the visceral details of this attack really just stop you in your tracks.
Yeah, Aisleyne was hospitalized after an XL bully suddenly turned on her, and the aftermath was just brutal.
Truly brutal.
She described the pain as severe, she was left emotionally devastated, and she even stated she believes she is visibly scarred for life.
Right. And while the physical severity of a large dog bite is undeniably horrific, the psychological context of this specific event is what really demands a closer look.
Yeah, what stood out to you?
The standout detail in her account is the immense dissonance between her perceived state of reality and the violence that followed. I mean, the dog was known to be affectionate.
Yes. She emphasized that specifically. The dog appeared entirely calm moments before it attacked, without a single warning sign. That's the detail that really sticks with me.
It changes everything.
It does. It's like you are walking on a dormant volcano.
Yeah.
You're hiking, the ground feels rock solid beneath your boots. You see green grass, maybe some wildflowers. Every single one of your senses is confirming that you are safe.
Right, you're just enjoying the hike.
Exactly. Then, without a tremor, without even a puff of smoke, the ground simply blows up underneath you. So how does the human mind even begin to process a trauma that successfully masks itself as perfectly safe just seconds before impact?
Well, to answer that, we really have to look at the underlying neurobiology of how we process threats.
Okay, lay it on me.
So the human brain, specifically the amygdala, relies heavily on predictive cues to keep us alive. If you encounter a dog and it flattens its ears or bares its teeth or emits a low growl...
Your brain instantly recognizes those cues.
Exactly. Visual and auditory cues. It immediately floods your system with adrenaline, triggering that classic fight-or-flight response. Your body is physically and mentally bracing for impact before the physical contact even happens.
You are primed for the danger. You might still get hurt, but your brain isn't surprised by it.
Precisely. In those cases, the trauma is generally localized to the physical injury. But when an animal known for affection attacks from a state of total calm, it bypasses that entire predictive machinery.
Wow. Yeah, there's no adrenaline runway.
None. It violates that foundational assumption of safety we discussed earlier. The psychological damage multiplies because the event essentially destroys your trust in your own perception.
Because your brain is suddenly telling you that your instincts are useless.
Right. It tells you danger doesn't announce itself and that calm environments are actually just hidden threats.
Man, that destruction of trust is painfully obvious in how she describes the aftermath. Amidst the shock of her own injuries, she expressed this overwhelming, chilling relief.
Yeah, that part was hard to read.
She acknowledged the terrifying reality that the attack could have easily been fatal had the dog targeted her face or her neck. But even more devastating, she was hyper-fixated on what would have happened if a child had been standing there instead of her.
Which is a classic hallmark of a shattered mental model. When predictability is stripped away, the mind desperately tries to map out every possible catastrophic variable to prevent future harm.
Like it's overcompensating.
Exactly. If the calm moments aren't safe, the brain assumes nothing is safe. So it immediately jumps to the absolute worst-case scenarios to hyper-prepare for the next unseen threat.
But this internal chaos didn't stay internal for long. Aisleyne took this intense conflict, being deeply traumatized but intensely grateful to be alive, and weaponized it into a public crusade.
She didn't hold back.
No, she immediately used her social media platforms to issue a really stark warning. She was calling heavily for responsible pet ownership, emphasizing words like leadership, discipline, control, and training when handling strong dogs, especially around vulnerable people like kids.
And her advocacy there taps directly into a highly polarized, ongoing societal conversation regarding the safety standards for large, powerful dog breeds.
Oh, absolutely.
By sharing her story, she essentially threw gasoline on a debate that asks how we manage the presence of animals capable of inflicting severe harm within our daily environments.
Okay, wait, let's pause here and look at the actual mechanics of what she is advocating for, because I see a massive contradiction.
Okay, let's hear it.
She is fiercely calling for leadership, discipline, and control. But she explicitly noted that this specific dog was perfectly calm, affectionate, and turned without any warning whatsoever.
Right?
So if an animal gives zero warning and snaps from a state of absolute calm, what exactly is there to control? Does implementing quote-unquote discipline actually work in that scenario? Or is she accidentally highlighting an inherent, unavoidable risk when dealing with animals possessing that kind of physical power?
That's a really sharp observation.
It just feels logically inconsistent to say the dog was totally fine and snapped out of nowhere, therefore you need to train them better.
Well, you're right. The logic is inconsistent, but the psychology behind it makes perfect sense. This contradiction is basically the textbook definition of the human need for an internal locus of control after a random trauma.
An internal locus of control.
Yeah. When we experience something utterly unpredictable, our psyche simply cannot tolerate the idea that we are just at the mercy of chaotic events. We desperately want to believe that if we just apply enough discipline or enough leadership, we can engineer the unpredictability out of the equation.
Oh, wow. So the call for training is almost like a coping mechanism. It's a way to feel safe again.
Often, yes. If we impartially analyze her message, we see two colliding realities. On one hand, she is demanding extreme owner accountability, this belief that human intervention can mitigate all danger.
Right.
But on the other hand, her lived experience violently proved the deeply unpredictable, autonomous nature of the animal. And her personal contradiction perfectly mirrors the wider public debate, which we should point out we're just observing here, not taking sides on.
Of course. It's a hugely debated topic.
One faction argues that behavior is entirely the result of ownership and environment. The opposing faction argues that certain genetic traits and sheer physical capabilities present an inherent, untrainable danger regardless of the dog's apparent calmness. Her experience is sitting directly on the fault line of those two perspectives.
Because we just want to believe we are the ones in the driver's seat. The terrifying alternative is admitting we share our sidewalks and parks with volatile forces we fundamentally cannot manage.
Exactly. And that desperate need for control and how easily we are tricked by a calm exterior brings us to the most fascinating layer of this deep dive.
Yeah, this part is wild.
Because the physical dog attack was actually the second time her threat detection system failed that week.
The pattern here is it's crazy. Just a few days before the dog attack, Aisleyne was dealing with a completely different type of unseen danger. But unlike the dog, which was an external threat in her environment, This was an internal chemical threat that she willingly purchased and injected into her own body.
She went on national television on Good Morning Britain to discuss a severe medical scare. She revealed that she had used non-prescribed weight loss injections.
Injections she bought purely because she saw them promoted on social media.
Right. No doctor, no prescription.
No proper medical guidance at all. She ended up feeling terribly unwell, and she used her TV appearance to warn the public about the severe risks of buying unverified medical treatments through unofficial channels online.
We are looking at the modern architecture of unregulated access. The mechanics of how we evaluate risk have completely broken down in the digital age.
The parallels are just impossible to ignore. Trusting an unverified chemical compound bought off an Instagram or TikTok ad is the exact same psychological trap as trusting an unfamiliar, powerful dog.
It really is.
In both scenarios, you're presented with a highly appealing, seemingly harmless exterior. In the park, it's a dog wagging its tail. On your phone, it's a slick, well-lit, beautifully marketed social media post promising an effortless solution to weight loss.
Which looks totally legitimate.
But behind both of those exteriors, you have zero concept of the volatile chemistry operating just beneath the surface.
And that highlights the massive danger of what we call manufactured trust in social commerce. Let's break down why people actually do this.
Please do.
Traditionally, the medical field has gatekeepers. You have to schedule an appointment, sit in a waiting room, consult a licensed physician, take a prescription to a pharmacist, and read a list of side effects. It is a slow, boring, heavily regulated process.
But it's designed to establish a baseline of safety. It's friction, right? The system relies on friction to keep you safe.
Exactly. Friction is the guardrail. Social media fundamentally eliminates friction. It replaces those medical gatekeepers with the halo effect of algorithmic familiarity.
Okay, what does that mean in practice?
Well, when you see an influencer or even just a targeted ad that perfectly aligns with your aesthetic preferences, nestled right between photos of your friends and family, your brain conflates that digital proximity with actual safety and legitimacy.
Oh, man. So you subconsciously think, if this app knows exactly what couch I want to buy, it must know what health supplement is safe for me.
Yes. We mistake convenience for safety. We think because something is easy to acquire, it must be harmless. It completely bypasses the brain's critical thinking apparatus.
Just like the calm demeanor of the dog bypassed her physical threat detection.
Exactly. The polished aesthetic of the social media ad bypassed her medical threat detection. We assume the platform itself is a guardrail. We assume someone, somewhere, verified this chemical before it showed up on our screen.
When, in reality, the barrier to entry is nothing more than a marketing budget and a click.
Right. And when you inject an unverified substance, you are essentially letting a stranger from the internet operate on your internal organs. You have no idea what the compound is, how it interacts with your specific biology, or what the long-term metabolic consequences are.
You just saw the green grass of the marketing campaign and stepped right onto the volcano.
Which makes her dual experiences within a single week such a stark, urgent warning about navigating modern life. We are constantly interacting with complex, powerful systems, whether they're biological, like a large animal, or chemical and algorithmic, like unregulated internet pharmacology.
And we are doing it blind.
We really are.
So where does this leave her? Aisleyne Horgan Wallace is currently navigating a grueling period of recovery. She's trying to heal from a traumatic physical injury and visible scarring, right on the heels of recovering from a frightening systemic medical scare.
Yeah, that's a lot to process.
Her public statements show her focus is heavily on physical and emotional healing, while continuing to emphasize extreme caution, situational awareness, and personal responsibility to her audience.
The cognitive load of processing that much trauma in such a condensed time frame is immense. She is forced to rebuild her internal model of safety on two entirely different battlefronts.
Two totally different kinds of trauma.
Yeah. She has to figure out how to trust her physical environment again after a random animal attack. And she has to figure out how to navigate her own health choices and digital environment after being deceived by unregulated marketing.
Which is exactly why this matters to you, the person listening to this right now.
Yeah.
We consume stories like this all the time.
Right.
But the real value is holding them up as a mirror.
Definitely.
Where in your own life are you placing unearned trust? Are you bypassing your own threat detection because something looks aesthetically pleasing or feels convenient? Think about your own social media feed. Are you outsourcing your personal responsibility and health choices to an algorithm designed solely to sell you things?
A really important question.
Or think about how you move through the physical world. Are you ignoring the inherent risks of powerful elements around you just because they happen to look calm today? We all walk around believing we are perfectly safe right up until the exact microsecond we aren't.
And applying this to the broader picture of how we live today brings up a rather uncomfortable final question to consider.
Oh, what is it?
Well, Aisleyne experienced severe back-to-back trauma, and her immediate instinct, like so many people in our highly connected era, was to broadcast it. She went straight to social media and national television to transform her raw, unprocessed pain into a public safety lesson.
Oh, wow. The contentification of trauma.
Yes. When the modern pressure dictates that we must immediately monetize or publicize our pain to extract some kind of societal value from it, how does that impact a person's actual private ability to heal?
That's a heavy thought.
The brain needs immense time and quiet to reestablish a sense of safety after a baseline rupture. Are we actually giving ourselves the grace to process the shock of the volcano erupting, or are we just rushing to film the lava for the algorithm?
Rushing to publish the pain before we've even bandaged the wound. That is something to seriously mull over the next time you open your phone. Because whether it's a neatly packaged quick fix injection on your feed or a situation in the real world that looks perfectly calm and affectionate, remember how fragile the illusion of predictability really is. Don't let the green grass fool you. Be incredibly careful where you step.
Okay, one question for you. What really causes sudden behavioral changes in powerful dog breeds like XL bullies? And should there be stricter ownership laws, training requirements, or licensing rules introduced to prevent similar life-threatening attacks in the future? Don't forget to comment it. Thanks.